From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Wednesday, May 18th, 2016. Silver is trading at $17 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,271 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $460. Antiwar.com reports with growing complaints from a faction within the Republican leadership, the House Rules Committee has stripped language from the 2017 National Defense Authorization Act requiring women to register for the military draft. With the military opening up combat roles for women, several military leaders have talked up the idea of adding women to the Selective Service registration system in the name of fairness. This has since been backed by the vast majority of Democrats and a solid number of Republicans. Representative Pete Sessions of Texas, the head of the Rules Committee, is among the Republicans opposed to the expansion of the draft system, and both he and House Armed Services Committee Chairman Representative Mac Thornberry, also from Texas, have advocated exploring the possibility of eliminating the registration system entirely. Selective service was initially imposed by Congress in 1917 to raise conscripts for World War I. Two further selective service acts were passed in 1940 and 1948. The 1948 law remains in place, albeit amended during the Vietnam War and terminated by President Ford in 1975. Selective service was restored by President Carter in 1980 as a move to warn the Soviet Union over the invasion of Afghanistan, and even though the Soviet Union and their occupation of Afghanistan are both long gone, selective service has remained in place ever since. The Pentagon has expressed support for the registration system, but has repeatedly opposed the idea of drafting anybody, arguing they prefer a volunteer army. The elimination of the language from the National Defense Authorization Act does not end the effort, however, as the Draft Our Daughters Act of 2016 is still being pushed in both the House and the Senate, with the Senate seen as more likely to support it. If you're fed up with the government running every aspect of your life, but you're not listening to the Lava Flow podcast yet, what's wrong with you? Go right now to thelavaflow.com/listen. The Lava Flow podcast, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Subscribe today using any podcatcher at thelavaflow.com/listen, or just go back to sucking up to the government. The Lava Flow podcast, striking the root every episode. UPI reports the U.S. Senate on Tuesday passed legislation that would allow families of the victims of September 11th terrorist attacks to go after the government of Saudi Arabia for damages, a proposition shunned by the Obama administration. The Senate unanimously passed the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act on Tuesday, which opens the Saudi government to legal action from families of those killed on 9/11. The act, co-sponsored by Democratic New York Senator Chuck Schumer, must now be passed by the House before it heads to President Barack Obama's desk. Even if it does reach the White House, Obama has already indicated he will veto the bill. The Persian Gulf nation has never been conclusively linked to the 2001 terrorist attacks, but 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi. Further, some believe Saudi Arabia has provided support for militants in some fashion for decades. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports commuter rail service in and out of New York City's Grand Central Terminal was suspended during the evening rush hour on Tuesday due to a fire under a section of elevated tracks. The New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority's Metro North Railroad said on Twitter around 7:30 p.m. local time that smoky conditions caused by the fire under the tracks in Manhattan's East Harlem neighborhood were causing the delays. Firefighters were on hand to combat the three-alarm blaze. Images of the fire published by local media outlets showed bright flames directly under the tracks and dense plumes of black smoke reaching into the sky. A person answering the phone at Grand Central Terminal's station master's office said Metro North service would be suspended indefinitely. There were no immediate reports of injuries in the fire, which apparently began in construction trailers parked under the elevated tracks. The delays left hundreds of disgruntled commuters milling about in Grand Central Terminal. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.